Just when you thought new media was fully taking over the sports media landscape, old media, specifically Drip Bayless, is back. Old media is rising up. They're sitting up like the Undertaker, coming back to reclaim their throne in this sports media landscape. So, of course, let's start with the Jordan versus LeBron debate that Skip has built his whole livelihood on top of.
Michael Jordan is the GOAT and laughably better than LeBron James.
So here's the thing. This is part of a series that Jubilee apparently does. It's called Surrounded, right? So it's basically someone sits down and they have 20 minutes, I believe, based off this clock that's on the screen. It appears to be 20 minutes where he sits and he goes through a bunch of takes. And the 20 people in this room that are surrounding, hence the word surrounded, you can run up. The first one to get to the chair is able to sit down and debate for a certain amount of time that particular take that the person just said. So the fact that, he's out here, Michael Jordan is the GOAT and laughably better than LeBron James, 20 dudes or 20 people can now run up and fight for the right to go 1v1 with Drip Bayless. So Michael Jordan is the GOAT and laughably better than LeBron James. Dudes run up and someone now gets to go 1v1 with your man's Drip.
I don't think LeBron's the GOAT. I don't think Michael Jordan's the GOAT either, though.
Oh, so we're going a different direction.
I think we're going to go in the direction of Stephen Curry.
Okay, so as you see Skip's face here, he's not happy about this because he wants to go 1v1 with someone who wants to talk Jordan, but this dude's trying to throw a curveball. He's a youngin', so he's going Steph as his GOAT.
And I'm going to point out your
You can see the disappointment in Drip's face. Look at the disappointment.
Oh, so we're going a different direction.
Wow, look at this disappointment. If you're not on YouTube, if you listen on the podcast, you should definitely tap in on the YouTube channel. But like Drip feels crestfallen when man says Steph Curry.
And I'm going to point out your simple statement in one word.
Steph Curry?
You said laughably.
Okay.
And to me, that's bigger than Michael Jordan versus LeBron James. You are simply hitting and taking a personal shot at the entire game of basketball that we are watching today.
Okay, so now here's the problem when you do have these types of things, right? Like, there's a lot of people. This essentially is pros versus Joes. I don't know if the older heads will probably remember this. Before you youngins, there was once a show that came on cable TV that allowed Jerry Rice to run post corner routes against cab drivers, against literal plumbers. As much as, the whole thing is funny of, guys from back in the day, they were playing against plumbers. But there was an actual show that put that to the test where you could have Jerry Rice running wheel routes against actual plumbers. It was called Pros versus Joes. This is literally the Pros versus Joes of the hot take era. You're having one person who is an established veteran in Drip going against Joes. Skip is the pro. All these dudes in this 20v1 are the Joes, right? And the problem is that these Joes really think they got good points. These Joes think they really got good takes. These Joes really feel like they could go 1v1 with people they see on TV. I mean, the way that the internet is structured, everyone has a voice. When you allow everyone to have a voice, everyone feels their voice should be validated. And when you spit into an ether and the internet can bump you up and boost you up with virality, this is what emboldens people to continuously talk. So we have people that are just running off at the mouth, having takes and not really making a lot of sense. And as I always say, I say it to the homies that, I care about to make sure they're on the right path. You can't talk this shit with everybody. That's all this stuff is. And as you listen to these clips, I'm not going to play all these clips because this is the problem. I love where Drip is going with this. I hope Drip does more of this. I hope he steals this concept and makes it his own. However, you're not going to find too many fans or people who think they're more than fans and they're experts that have actual good takes that can actually out-debate a professional debater. Because that's what, pause. But that's what Drip is at this point. He is a professional debater.
LeBron always posts on Instagram, he says, iron sharpens iron. Where was the iron sharpening iron with Michael Jordan when he was winning all of his championships? I understand that 6-0 is something that is perfect. You really can't debate it. But
you really can't debate Jordan 6-0, but he's about to debate it. And this is where you lose. You lose because you've already admitted defeat in saying that Jordan 6-0 is perfect.
What you can do is say, all right, it was a beautiful thing. We're going to leave it in the past because there is greatness in front of our eyes, and it's LeBron.
All right, so dude is just rambling. He's trying to make that Steph Curry is his GOAT, and he's not really saying that much. And again, you're giving someone who's never had this opportunity and probably will never have this opportunity ever again. You're sitting down across from Drip, and he's going to his bread and butter. He has built a whole career, 25 plus years, on Jordan versus LeBron, much like Nick Wright currently is building his career off LeBron versus Jordan. Jordan is failing in comparison to LeBron. Nick Wright is now the new Drip Bayless in terms of find you an athlete and ride him till the wheels fall off. Now you have a chance to sit 1v1 across from this person, and you're just doing verbal bouquets. You are having diarrhea of the mouth. This man has been sitting down in front of Drip for 30 seconds, and he has said nothing.
James, and it's Stephen Curry. And then we get into LeBron versus Steph.
When is he going to actually talk about why Steph is the GOAT?
And I'm going to sit here and say, Steph Curry, if he wins a 5th championship, which he will, which is why I'm saying Steph's the GOAT, if he wins that 5th title, he is the greatest of all time.
Do you realize that Steph Curry...
And see, here's where you get talked down to. This is where, when you go one-on-one versus a pro, this is where you learn that there's levels to this shit. Because now Drip is about to get into his bag, because you have said nothing in this debate. You have spewed at the mouth, talking about an if. And if you've already said Jordan 6-0 is perfect, but if Steph wins a 5th ring, he's the GOAT. Do you understand that mathematically that doesn't make sense, for one? And second of all, you really haven't said anything about Steph Curry specifically to support your argument. But now Drip is about to catch a body.
And company had a 3-1 lead on LeBron without there's no Kevin Durant involved here, right? It's just Steph. So it's, I think you would agree, that was Steph's team, right?
It was
there's
a tough
Clay and there's
performance.
Draymond, and we get all that. But it's Steph Curry or bust to me.
Game 5.
Because, okay,
Draymond Green.
You've got, he's got.
So he's already hitting you at the easiest thing to look at Steph and to give points as to why he's not the GOAT. Well, he blew a 3-1 lead. He blew a 3-1 lead. They won 73-9, and they lied. Greatest team of all time until they lied in the finals and tricked off a 3-1 lead. That's the easiest thing off rip. See, that's the thing when you have fans and you empower fans. Fans only know their own perspective. They haven't done the research to think outside the box to get a whole bunch of wide scoping opinions and then use that and siphon off of some of that to craft your own. They only know what they know. Anytime anyone comes to you with a Steph Curry is the GOAT argument, the first thing immediately should be they lost 3-1. They were up 3-1 and tricked it off. That's Exhibit A. If you can't even counteract that in your argument against someone like Drip, you shouldn't even be in this 20v1. I don't know how they screened to get these 20 people in here to go 20v1 versus Skip, but this is a piss poor argument in front of one of the, however you feel about him, one of the GOATs, for better or for worse, one of the GOATs of this whole debate culture era.
Gone. He's gone. So you don't
Why?
have...
Because LeBron made him gone.
If Steph is the GOAT, he's got 2 out of 3 at home to close the deal. All he's got to do is win 1 of 3, and 2 out of the 3
This is
are
just
at
one
Oracle,
example. Yep.
And he can't pull it off because he's not that guy. He's not the GOAT. And what happened in Game 7 at Oracle? Remember LeBron's chase down block? Remember this?
Kyrie dotted his
Kyrie
eyes.
hits the game-winning shot. In the 4th quarter of that game,
This is
Steph
still just
Curry
talking about
went
the 3-1
1
lead.
of 6, and he went 1 of 4 from 3.
The room is silent.
Well, I'm sorry, 1 of 5 from 3, and he had a terrible turnover with 2 minutes left where he tried
Yeah,
to
he threw it
his
behind the back
threw it in the
pass.
5th
Yep.
row, and it was
Yep. All facts here.
a key turning point in that game.
You're letting Drip get his shit off, and you're making Drip look like he's back at his peak, like it's 05 on a 4-letter network. Piss poor job, right? It continued. Magic Johnson is the greatest Laker of all time. So, of course, 20v1.
Magic Johnson is the greatest Laker of all time.
And you notice these questions are always slanted with that LeBron angle. Now, there is a football one, and we will get to that. But, of course, You're talking about Lakers. You're talking about Magic Johnson. He knows these are younger people in this 20v1. They're going to bring up LeBron. Maybe a few of them might bring up Kobe. But this is, again, all slanted towards I get to rail on LeBron.
Magic Johnson is the greatest Laker of all time.
How is Magic the greatest Laker of all time when he wasn't even the greatest Laker on this team? That's Kareem. Kareem was first all time.
Okay, so now we have a brother who's coming in with facts. He's a youngin', but he's talking old school shit. That's kind of a cheat code. I don't think the youngins don't understand the game. When you can go at an old head with old head shit and out old head the old head, that's the real checkmate. When you keep going at an old head with youngin' shit, you're gonna keep allowing him or her, the old head, to keep knocking you out with old head logic. But when you go at the old head with old head shit, now that eliminates a lane that the old head can go in. Now the old head's got to get deeper into his bag. And I can tell you from experience, most old heads' bags are not that deep.
I'm in Lakers points, first in rebounds, first in blocks, first in field goals
he's
made.
cooking.
You know, and he had an unstoppable move in the sky hook, has one more championship because he has 6, Magic has 5, and he has 3 more MVPs.
Okay.
We haven't even got to Kobe yet.
I give you every point you made about points and about rebounds and about blocks and about sky.
Okay, so they just show for the audio only audience, they just showed an older gentleman, at least someone who's got a lot of gray in his beard. So it's not just all youngins. There is an older person in this crowd. So, but he didn't get to the chair fast enough. So a youngin is hitting your man's drip with the Kareem, and he said we didn't even get the Kobe yet. So he's going to make the point that Kobe's better than Magic.
Hooks and
Exactly.
all that.
Kobe
is
stands are different, bro.
sensational, but there's a missing ingredient called leadership, charisma, whatever that greatest intangible is that Magic had greater than anybody this side of Jordan.
Yeah, would he have one rookie of
without
the
without Kareem?
Without
you mean?
Kareem was averaging 33 points that series.
Well, I would like to
Before
think
he-
he
before
would
he
have.
got injured in
He could have
Game
gone
6.
to Utah or wherever he would have gone. I just think he would have been Rookie of the Year. But
Right.
he was the perfect fit at the perfect moment for this team, and it became a super team,
okay,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah, it was showtime.
See, here's where the youngin is losing. He's losing. He had a strong start. He was up early, but now he's starting to trick it off. Drip just talked about leadership and how Kareem lacked that. You know what Kareem's nickname was? And you could, if you watched Winning Time on HBO, this was displayed, and youngins watched Winning Time. Like, not enough of them. The show got canceled. Like, I mean, that's certainly a thing. But, I mean, understand this, right? Kareem's nickname was called Cap. What was Cap short for? Captain. So, again, if you don't have the knowledge, so this youngin got to a good start, but if you don't have the knowledge to know, well, you're talking about leadership, well, why do they call him Captain then? Explain that one, Drip. You're talking about he lacked leadership. His nickname was literally Cap for captain. But okay.
And they had Big Game James, obviously, and they had Byron, and they had Michael Cooper.
Big Game James came later. So again, when Unk versus Unk happens, we can get Drip up out of here because I got the knowledge. But this youngin who had a good start, he had a lot of stats, and that's another thing. When you youngins hit with stats, it's cool, but to an old head, those numbers don't really register like that. Like the stats era that we're in now is the analytic era, which is the calculator era. That's for youngin v youngin, right? Youngin v old head hitting you with stats. Like Drip can't really spout off averages like that, and he doesn't care that he can't. So that's not going to hit. So youngin, he had a good start, good energy, but he's falling apart here.
Cooper guarding the way.
Because Big Game James wasn't even around for the first chip. The one that Drip is talking about Magic as a rookie, Big Game James wasn't even there yet.
Nobody could guard on the perimeter. I give you all that.
Exactly.
But it gelled around the new son, S-U-N, who was Magic, right?
Right.
And he lifted them into what was 9 finals, okay?
Yep.
And he is the driving force. Kareem wasn't. Kareem was really more of a Robin, but you can make a case he was the greatest.
Dog, how is he letting him get this off right now? This is laughable what he's saying.
Robin of all time.
Right.
Okay?
He just called Kareem the greatest Robin of all time, and the youngin is sitting there saying, yeah.
I give you all your numbers because clearly it took LeBron playing now 22
Yeah,
years, but
exactly.
it took 21 years to break Kareem's record.
And that's the point that I was making, is that at the end of the day, like, unless
He's
Kareem
sticking
just
to
got
it.
unlucky because the best player of all time, LeBron James, took that scoring title from him, but he would have been able to keep that for his whole life. And then
He
if we
would
go
have.
to Kobe, right?
Right.
For example, if I was to
So he lost. The youngin lost. He had a good start, but his whole thing is, well, Kareem has scored the most points. That doesn't make him the greatest Laker of all time. There's many other reasons, many other ways he could have used this debate to illustrate his points way better. But unfortunately, because there's limitations, and he has a Kobe point that he wants to get off, because nothing can get in the way of a Kobe stand. Nothing stops Kobe stand, okay? So now he's about to make the argument that Kobe's better than Magic, something that I think even Kobe wouldn't say if he was still here.
take your papers right there, ball them up in a trash can and shoot it, whose name would we say? We wouldn't.
So he's trying to make the point that cultural impact of us shooting trash into a basket saying Kobe, which has very little to do with Kobe and more to do with the Chappelle Show. Again, when you youngins make your point against someone who knows, you're not about to get that off. But, Drip ain't watching Chappelle Show, so he doesn't know how to counteract that. Like, that has nothing to do, us shooting in the basket and saying Kobe has nothing to do with Kobe. It has everything to do with Chappelle Show.
And say Magic.
No.
Who we saying? We saying Kobe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then that.
But see, the other youngins in the room are laughing because they think that that's a dub. They think that he's now getting the dub in the chat, right? But because Drip don't know no better, and Drip don't got no one in his ear like he has on his shows when he was working for FS1 and the Florida Network, where people could feed you lines in your ear in your IFB, he can now just have to sit there and just take that. Because he doesn't have the cultural reference. Even though he wears Jordans and he calls himself Drip Bayless, he doesn't have the cultural awareness because he's trying to appropriate the culture. So he doesn't have that awareness to know that that's just a Chappelle Show riff. That has nothing to do with Kobe.
That's what it's about. And when we talk about keeping that mentality, how you go through life, how you focus on what you need to do in life, nobody says, keep that magic.
No, but what they say is you could live through anything if Magic made it. See, again, cultural awareness. Youngin's cooking right now, but only because he's going up against a 75-year-old white man. That's the only reason why Mans is cooking.
They say keep that Mamba mentality.
Okay.
That's what it's all about.
Okay, but you grew up in the Mamba mentality era, am I right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. That's why I started off with Kareem first.
Okay, all right, you do, and I give you that.
Yeah.
But man,
Yeah, so again, Youngin had a good strategy in the beginning to just go with the old head usual answer. He could have went LeBron, he didn't. He could have jumped off with Kobe, but he didn't. So he knew to go against an old head, I'm going to use the old head. I'm going to go Kareem. I'm going to throw Kareem at you to kind of throw you off your game. And then on the back door, pause, I'm going to try to get Kobe up in there. But he fell off because he kept trying to throw stats at someone who doesn't really care about stats. And now we get to football. Now, Drip is known, got his career back in the day out there in Dallas Morning Star, I believe, where he did a lot of stuff with the Cowboys. He was a reporter. He got into some issues with Troy Aikman because he was getting into that salacious reporting lane. He tried to insinuate that Troy Aikman was a man of a certain sexual orientation. That became a thing. To this day, Drip tries to deny it, but I mean, it was in print. It was in the book that he authored. So make of that what you will. But now he's talking football, and he's going at the guy that everyone thinks is the new GOAT, especially when it comes to QBs, even though he just lost the most recent Super Bowl, Patty Mahomes.
overrated. Patrick Mahomes is dramatically overrated.
Okay.
The fact that
So now an Eagles fan who is in full Eagles regard. So this dude is definitely not a youngin'. And man's put some good speed. Is that a Ty Detmer jersey? Is that Ty Detmer or Coy Detmer? A number 11 for the Eagles. Wasn't that a Detmer at one point? All right, either way.
Rated.
Eagles fan in full regalia.
that you're gonna-
He's wearing a helmet, shoulder pads, a jersey, the pants, and he's got face paint and a green mohawk for the audio audience.
just call him overrated just because
Right.
Brady played it a lot longer time ago.
So again, he's going with the old trope here. Drip Bayless is saying, well, Mahomes can't be the GOAT because Tom Brady's the GOAT. You know what old heads used to say when Tom Brady was starting to get those rings? Well, Tom Brady can't be the GOAT because Joe Montana's the GOAT. And you know what even older heads used to say when Montana was getting his off? Well, Joe Montana can't be the GOAT because insert whoever, Johnny Unitas, Terry Bradshaw, whoever else is the GOAT. Like, so again, this whole thing, era talk and GOAT talk is always generational, and it will always be a debate because you will always have people who feel that their guy, the person that they saw that was the most influential during their life, is the GOAT. And they don't want to hear from nobody older. They don't want to hear from nobody younger. Whoever they saw with their own eyes, they feel is the GOAT. But let's see what this debate ensues.
I would love to have seen, like I said, that one Super Bowl that he played, that Brady played against him, he was still recovering from, the head. And like I said,
see, this guy has no idea what he's talking about. So again, he bum rushed a whole bunch of people in full Philadelphia EAGLES Eagles regalia just to sit there and have a brain fart 15 seconds into his take. Again, this is why this is pros versus Joes for hot takes.
Played against him. He was still recovering from.
He was still recovering from the
head.
what? And then he just starts pointing at the head. What do you mean? A concussion? Like, it's a word. It's called concussion.
I said, and he was
Excuses,
throwing balls.
excuses,
He was throwing
excuses.
balls. He was throwing balls to his receivers, hitting them in the helmets and stuff like that, and they weren't catching the
It
ball.
was
There was a lot
31
of
to
things.
9.
It was 31 to 9, but there was
31 to
2
9.
touchdowns. 2 touchdowns.
And-
What was
and-
that one defense? The
by
call,
the
they
way-
called the flag on it
by the
because
way-
of what's his.
He's yelling. He's, again, I'm assuming he's an Eagles fan, clearly, because he's dressed from head to toe and he's wearing face paint and a green mohawk. He sounds like a guy that calls WIP in Philly. He sounds like a guy that just yells into his phone about whatever. And while that works on sports radio, trust me, I did sports radio, worked there for almost a decade. That doesn't work in real life. That doesn't work in real life human interactions. Like, it works in sports radio because it's theater of the mind. It's theatrics. This is a 1v1, one-on-one. You have to sit in front of this person and debate them, and you're doing it by yelling like you're calling into WIP in Philly. It's not going to work.
Face that was.
To your point about all those AFC championship games, you realize that he lucked into playing into the worst division in football over his 7 years, because if I look at the Raiders over those 7 years, they have the 6th worst record. The Broncos, 8th
Oh my
worst
God, we
record.
can talk about this. I mean, let's talk about the what was that pass against Oakland? We won't go back to that.
So he's talking about the tuck rule. Like, this is stuff, if you're, again, what I hope he's about to get into how bad the AFC East was during Tom Brady's run. I hope he's about to get into that. How pathetic the Dolphins were. How pathetic, except for those 2 years, the Jets were. And how laughable the Bills were. I hope he's about to get into that bag. That's an easy thing to counteract. But again, we're talking about pros versus Joes.
Far either with Brady and he shouldn't have even won that game.
The tuck rule, yeah.
Yeah, the tuck rule. Oh, yeah.
I'll give you that.
But I mean, ultimately, Patrick Mahomes is.
Ultimately, you're just going to allow him to get it off about how the AFC West has been pathetic during this run for Mahomes, when you could argue that the AFC East was even worse when Brady was cooking? It was right there for you. He gave it to you, and you didn't take it. Ultimately, you're just going to get back to Mahomes. Again, this is where I hope people, I actually want this to go viral. I want this to blow up, because when it comes to when you're trying to separate yourself, and I can speak to it as someone that has tried to in this space, there's a lot of fans on the internet that are yelling into their phones and yelling into their cameras and getting clicks and views. There's a difference between someone who is just a fan, who only knows what his team does and only knows a surface level about the world outside of his or her favorite team. There's a difference between those people who are crafting debates and crafting arguments and giving takes, as opposed to someone who studies, watches film, learns, reads, absorbs information, researches, studies, tries to bring that information and put it forward. There is a difference. This right here is showing you the difference. I am breaking this down because I am showing you the art of the take and the art of the debate. This is the debate culture that we're in. This is the debate era that we are currently in. And this is a piss poor job so far through all three of these clips. These are the three clips that are going the most viral. Although some other nerd looking dude allegedly cooked Drip, but I listened to it. It wasn't even that entertaining. But other aggregate accounts made it boost and made it viral. So it is what it is. But these three, to me, I wanted to break down because this just shows how lackluster it is to debate fans. And this is why you can't talk this shit with everybody. But I will let Philly dude get his Patrick Mahomes take off. You're wearing Eagles colors and you just beat the Chiefs, and yet you're on camera riding for the team, riding for the QB your team just beat. You haven't even mentioned that yet. Like, that would be the first thing. I'm like, well, he just kicked his ass. So I agree with you. He's a top 5 QB. But in essence, he could be the GOAT because of this. Like, obviously, I'm just like this. We just kicked that dude's ass. Like that, yeah, we just beat the GOAT. Like, there's ways to flip this, but he's doing none of it.
A 5-star quarterback. He's probably the best quarterback in this league right now. And I will go as far as to say is that he won that first Super Bowl for Kansas City, because I know Andy Reid still trying to figure out what play to call, and he took over the offense 100%, started to call the plays, and actually was the one that drove.
So now he's trying to say that Mahomes, yeah, this is just bad takes, man.
The team down. They didn't use Andy's plays. That he was the one calling the plays in that last few minutes.
Is Patrick Mahomes the best quarterback right now? I'll take Joe Burrow over Patrick Mahomes.
Now listen, I love Joe Burrow when he's healthy. When he's great. The problem is that he's in a part of an organization that doesn't like to play defense, so he's never going to win like that.
He was heading in the right direction, but he fumbled it at the end. He could have called the Bengals cheap. Now, again, I don't know when this was recorded. Maybe this was after the Bengals actually paid all that bread to keep offense, to keep Higgins and Jamar Chase there. But he could have used historical precedent to say that the Bengals are a cheap organization. He could have used that. It still doesn't fight the debate of Joe Burrow's better than Patrick Mahomes, but if you're going to go that way, at least go that way with the actual factual information.
I watched Joe Burrow's first game against the Eagles where he got sacked 8 times and was able to get up all that time.
Did Joe Burrow not beat Patrick Mahomes in an AFC Championship game at Arrowhead? He did do that.
But
he almost beat him twice.
He did do that one time. He did do that one time. But he also hasn't been able to get back there, has he? So Joe Burrow hasn't been that great so that he's been able to get his team beyond.
It's a mediocre take, and that's being generous. So here's the thing, right? Ultimately, I love this. I love this because I want fans to be exposed for being the idiots that they usually are, because, again, fandom is a mental illness. Never forget that. So with having someone, a pioneer in the space, like Skip Bayless, a.k.a. Drip Bayless, go and sit down and be surrounded, which is the name of this program, and have them try to out-debate him. One, it shows he knows what he's talking about with the few things that he is lock in step in talking about. He has his little notes there so he can reference it. He did that during the Magic Johnson piece and even during this Mahomes piece. He has his notes there. He's prepared. These dudes that are doing the 20v1, they're not prepared, except for Eagles guy who had to wear all this face paint and have a whole, I guess, a Coy Detmer or Ty Detmer uniform at the ready with shoulder pads and all. So I think this is a thing where I want this to continue. I would love for this to become a normal format. Skip should take this thing on tour. I want to see Skip go city to city and do 20v1s and just outtake people. Because, again, the traditional format, as new media is taking over old media's old jobs, okay? Follow me on there. New media is taking over old media's old jobs. What that means is old media can take over new media's old jobs by doing content aggregating stuff like this. I'm here for that. Let's do a role reversal. Let's have old media do new media stuff, because clearly new media is doing old media stuff. So that's how you evolve. While Fraude is running around actually trying to consider whether he wants to go be president or not, that allows someone like Drip the space to reinvent himself yet again. This is a guy who went from a columnist to an author to an analyst to a TV commentator to now where he's surrounded 20v1s and taking down fans rather easily. This could either be one of two things for Drip, and I'll wrap this up here. This can either be him trying to show that he still got it and that he deserves to be back on a national cable TV platform, or this could be the real spinoff to get his own independent content venture out there. For me, I hope it's the latter. I go by the name of DCMD, and on this YouTube channel, I say all the things that your favorites can't say, because as a 15+ year sports media veteran, I know some of the things that they know, but they can't say for legal reasons, financial reasons, relationship reasons, etc. So on this channel, I'm going to give it up. If you like that type of content, go ahead and tap in, subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell for notifications, and I'll catch you in the next video.